please ignore my voice. I have a tiny cold, just so you know. But today I wanted to, first of all, do my makeup a little bit, just so that I have something to do with my hands, because otherwise I'm sort of like this. But in the meanwhile, I will be talking about the Dreamland Billionaire series. I'll get the books, so you know what I'm talking about. Ta-da! Today we'll be talking about these lovely beauties. As you can tell, they are red. I know a lot of people dislike the breaking of the spine, but I like the fact that you can see that I've read these and I've enjoyed these and that they are sort of well loved. I suppose since I've already said that, I've sort of revealed that I did not hate these books. I have very good reviews, or very happy reviews to give these books. But also there will be a couple. I have things to say. Anyway, let us start with the fine print. The Dreamland Billionaire series follows by Lauren Asher. Hi, Lauren. It follows three brothers whose their grandfather was sort of the Walt Disney of this not fictional world, it is a fictional world, parallel universe, wherein they don't have Disneyland, they have Dreamland. So just think like that. That's how big this place is. It's Dreamland. Everybody knows it. They do shows and movies, and it's a theme park, and it's a lot. It's a lot. So just think of that. So basically it follows three brothers, Declan, Rowan, and Callahan. And their fun fact about all of them, they are all sort of named after Old English. I think it's Old English. Like, I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong here, this could be totally wrong information. Pretty sure they're each named after one of the Knights of the Round Table. If you don't know what that is, just Google it. I'm not wasting my English degree explaining that to you guys. So they have like middle names that are kind of fun. But that only really gets explored in the third book. So it doesn't really matter. I just thought it's a cute detail. So each book follows one of the brothers in their search for fulfilling their inheritance. Basically, after their grandfather passes away, he leaves behind his will, and in his will there are 4 things that have to be fulfilled. One thing for Declan, one thing for Rowan, one thing for Callahan, and one for their father. And this is all, if they fulfill these things, they will get a share in the company. So the brothers are trying to sort of outbuy their father because there's a lot of beef there. And in order to get the shares that they rightfully should inherit, the way to get there is, well, let's just go for it. Okay, so the first brother, who's actually the middle brother. First book follows the second brother, Rowan, and basically, in order to get his shares, he has to pitch an idea to the board of directors that's like good enough to be taken and like agreed on and used. And if he does that, then he gets the shares that he wanted, because and he also has to become like, I don't know, he has to take some special position in order to do it. I don't know, it's a bit complicated. It's been a while since I read it. It's whatever. Basically, it has to do that. Working at Dreamland is a young woman named Zara Gullion. These are the Kane brothers, by the way. So it's Rowan Kane. Zara is such a mommy, and compared to Rowan's daddy issues, it's a really fun dynamic. She is this beautiful, layered, heart of gold person. She's just so strong in so many ways. All the decisions that she made, and all the thoughts and the worries and like the introspections and all of that she had, all that, they just made perfect sense. There's so many times when I'm reading a book and the character does something and I'm like, why'd you do that? I don't get it. Everything she did, I got, which is fun. I really can't say enough great things about her. I really loved her. I just really loved her. Can't say enough good things about Zara. So Zara is very mommy. Rowan is very daddy issues. He reminded me a lot of a Mr. Darcy character, where he goes through a very similar but not a copy of his character arc, and actually, now that I'm thinking more about it, they're not that similar. I don't know, it's just the vibe. The vibe was the same. So yeah, just love Rowan. He was so cute, and everything he did almost made sense. I mean, he made a lot of stupid decisions. Everything Zara did, I was like, yes, yes. Some of the things Rowan did, I was like, ooh, you could have done something else. could have chosen a different path, babe. But his friendship with Ani is really cute. I also love the fact that the friendship gave him a reason to become better. That wasn't just like romantic, because I think if it's just romantic, it can sort of be interpreted as like a selfish decision where it's like, oh, he just got better to be with her again. But instead, he got better because he was like, oh, I can see the people that I could help. I can see the hurt that I'm doing by not being this person that I should be. So, I don't know, just the fleshing out of his character was beautiful. I loved it a lot. It was such a nice... He is such a Mr. Darcy. He is. Rowan is a Mr. Darcy. What else? His presentation at the end almost made me cry. And it's not very often that I cry at books. I don't actually think I can recall a time where I cried at a book last. No, I can't remember a time when I cried at a book last, but it was a close call here. It's a close call. Okay. I'm already ranting so much. The relationship between Zara and Rowan moves at a very realistic pace, and their banter is like really fun. I know everybody's like, oh my god, there's such good banter in this, but their banter is fun. Like, let's just be honest. We love a good banter. And all the problems that they shared were really real. Lauren Asher really said, you know, fuck the miscommunication trope. I don't need to depend on that for angst. It's cheap. I love her for that. I love that she did that. She didn't do that. She didn't just be like, should they just miscommunicate? No, they communicated, but that was not enough. There were still things needed to be done. It was perfect. I loved it. Also, the brothers' dynamic in the first book is so fun. I love the way that they're all introduced, because you get glimpses into the other brothers' sort of personalities, but it's just enough to make you go, oh, I kind of understand what they're like. But then you're also like, but I need so much more. I need to know everything about these guys. Also, now I'm going to talk about smut, by the way. Smut. These books have smut. These are adult romances. A++++ for these smut scenes. And I'm not kidding. I blushed a lot. Ooh, blush. I just disgusted myself with that. But there were, it was very often when I was reading, and it felt like the author, Lauren, she was like reading my mind, because sometimes I would think stuff like, oh, that's a weird move, or that's a weird position, or like, why did he do that? And then the characters, and then Zara would be like, oh, why'd you do that? That was weird. Or like, oh, that was so weird. I don't know how you did that. Or like, they would comment on it. They would comment on these things. And they talked and they laughed and they communicated during sex. And it was really refreshing to see, because that is realistic. That's just how it is. Nobody's completely silent. You have to be able to talk. You have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to express yourself in ways where it's not just, come here, baby. Like, it's there's so much more. There's so much more. And it was just very realistic. In the end, I gave the fine print almost 5 stars. I gave it 4.75 on Storygraph. You can follow me on Storygraph. You can also follow me on GoodReads if you want to. Just miniskirt alert. But yeah, I liked the fine print. It was really fun and simple. It was very rom-com-y. So yeah, fine print. Nice. Let's move on to my favorite. I don't know if I can even explain how much I love this book. I do have some problems wrong with it. Not wrong with it, but I have some comments. So let's get into it. So, I just want to say, I read this book a year and a half ago, not knowing that it was the second in a series, not knowing it was the second in like a trio. And I was in such a different headspace and place in my life that I ended up just hating it. I didn't like it. I gave it, I think it was 1 or 2 stars. I just wasn't in the right headspace to receive these kind of books. Do you understand? I love it, by the way. This is a 5-star book for me. But a year and a half ago, it was a 2-star book. And that's just how things go. When I first read it, I didn't know it was a part of a series, so I hated it. No, I didn't hate it because of that, but I hated it. Everything that I'm gonna be like, oh, this was a little weird for me now, it was the biggest deal back then. I was like, this sucks. How could it be like this? Like, it was different back then, okay? It was very extreme. I decided to give it another shot because I decided to read the fine print. And I ended up liking the fine print. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll like terms and conditions if I give it another try. So I tried it again, and I fell in love. I am in love. So this one follows the eldest brother, Declan. I'm blushing. Okay, but before we move on to Declan, because yeah, sure, these books are about those guys, but they're also about the women. And I have a lot to say about these women. Iris Elizabeth Kane, aka my wife, not Declan's, mine. She is beautiful. She is so layered, and given her past and everything that she and her mother went through, every single one of her fears and decisions all made perfect sense. It was very similar, like, it was the same with Zara. Like, everything she did, I was like, yeah, I would do the same. Girl, yeah, get it. I never faulted her for anything. Your Honor, she could do nothing wrong, ever. Hi, editing me here. I realized I didn't tell you guys what Declan and Callahan's sort of like what they had to do for their share of the inheritance. So I'm just gonna pop in here and it's only 2 clips, so deal with it, okay? So Declan, in order to get his share in the inheritance, has to get married and have a kid. And Iris is actually his secretary. Dun dun dun. So it's sort of a fake marriage scenario. But of course, as we all know, nothing stays fake for long. So my biggest fear going into this book would be that Declan would be like a carbon copy of his brother Rowan, you know, from the first one. But I was proven wrong. I was proven wrong. Because although, while Rowan might have daddy issues, Declan has fallen into the habit of becoming his father. And he has to like actively force himself out of that behavior once he's put in the, like, once he realizes that. So while Declan might fall into the stereotypical like grumpy, mysterious guy role, he exceeded all my expectations because he got so, like, he got fleshed out to become so much more than that. He became more than just a caricature of like, oh, the grumpy CEO. Like, I never confused Rowan and Declan and thought that they were the same guy. You know? Like, there was never a moment where I was like, wait, which brother was in which book? I knew which brother was in which book. They were different enough, and it was nice. But you can also be like, yeah, those are brothers. Like, yeah, they're brothers. The one irritating thing. Remember, I love this book. The only thing I disliked, or let's just say I wasn't the biggest fan of, were the word translations. When I read the book for the first time, the word translations pissed me off so much. Every time one of the words came up, I was like, ugh, ugh, and I would like close my phone and throw it. This time I was like, oh, whatever. Like, I skipped it, you know? I was like, oh, whatever. I think it's because I imagine the pronunciation to be really awkward and stilted. They're different languages. These are Americans. This time I didn't mind it as much, probably because I knew it was coming. I remembered it from the first time I read it. And the reason behind their use and why they're there is actually kind of cute. So I guess I like tolerated it because of that. Also, I haven't touched on this before, but the writing in all 3 books, it's beautiful. There were a lot of beautiful quotes in Terms and Conditions that I still think about. And not perhaps because they were like intricately written with lots of prose and style, and like just because of the beauty from the honesty and the simplicity of it. Like, they were well written, and Lauren Asher didn't need to flower it up. She didn't need to, so she didn't. It was beautiful. Declan and Iris's like dynamic was so beautiful that it sort of carried the weight of all the quotes that I thought of, where I was like, that's beautiful. If I just read it on a wall or somebody had scribbled that, I'd be like, oh, what? It's a weird thing. But because I know these characters and I know why they're saying it and the background and all of that, it was cute. Also, I will always give extra points for groveling. A good grovel. So I did bump it up from a very strong, very, very strong 4.5, 4.75, whatever, to a 5. Because he did grovel. Yeah. Ooh. See, look at the difference. Striking. Anyway, that is terms and conditions. Now let's go on to final offer. Okay, so I'm just gonna say that this book is a lot heavier. It deals with a much heavier subject matter, so I would read the trigger warnings when it comes to addiction before reading it, if that's something that bothers you, just so you're aware. Like I said, Callahan, the third brother, the youngest brother, he sort of acts like the stereotypical younger brother. Throughout the first 2 books, he's been the character that intrigued me. But as he sort of admits himself, he's the funny brother, he's the screw up, and he's like, I kind of don't want to admit it, but he was a bit of a background character. Like, even in Rowan's book, Declan was never a background character for me. It was always like, oh, that guy's a main character, I just have to wait for his book. With Callahan, I was like, that guy's a background character, like, and I really don't mean that in like a rude way or an awful way. He is a great character, and he was already pretty fun. But I never saw him as like very layered until it came to this book. So when it came to this book, let's just say that I wasn't expecting what happens. Okay, so for Callahan's book, what he needs to do to get his inheritance is he needs to sell the Kane family's old summer home that his grandfather kept, or his grandfather owned. And now it is Callahan's, but what Callahan doesn't know is that the old love of his life lives there now, and she owns half of it. And he's not allowed to tell her that he needs to sell it in order to get the shares. So that is a sort of childhood best friend turned romance, breakup, reunited storyline. Oh, and she has a kid. I was initially hesitant when I realized how heavy the book was because of the alcoholism and the drug addiction, but because it seemed, it was sort of like, it felt like a turn out of left field. Like it just, it was mentioned in both the previous books that Callahan had gone through stuff, but I just never really gave it much thought, and that's a me thing. That's a me problem. I was also worried that he turned into like a subcategory of his brothers, sort of dark and gloomy. But no, what we see is what we get. Callahan is Callahan, and he's like a golden retriever, and he was so nice not to see him like get turned into somebody else just because he was the main character of his own book. He didn't fall into the stereotypical like grumpy guy. It's like, no, he's not a grumpy guy. Callahan is Callahan. He's funny, and he's sweet, and he went through shit. And despite all of his, not problems, but his struggles, he doesn't undergo like a massive change of personality, and I'm so grateful for that. The only times where he isn't like fun and goofy, other than when he's drunk or high, are like in the bedroom, and those scenes are hot, just so you know. Yeah, again, I thought it would turn into sort of a copy-paste situation where I would forget which couple I was reading about, where I would be like, oh, is this sex scene that I'm remembering, was this between Rowan and Zara, or Declan and Iris, or like who is this? But Carl and Lana, they stood out the most when it came to the sex scenes. When it came to the smutty smut, because they're a little bit more kinky, and it was fun. And just like in the other 2 books, they communicate during sex, and all of them do it in their different ways. It's just nice. It was just refreshing. I wasn't really expecting to like Alana, because I don't know, in the beginning she sort of started to bore me. But She grew on me. Oh, and speaking of growing on me, I'll just say very simply that children can be very difficult to write, but Cami is adorable. And I think it really speaks to Lauren Asher's strength as a writer. Like, she is really good at characterizations. And yeah, sometimes Cami toed the line to becoming like annoying, but hey, it's to be expected. It's a kid. There came a point at around 70% of the book where like I was done 70% of the way through the book, and I realized, I think I actually kind of like this kid. Which is a feat in itself because I'm not a kid person at all. I will, however, say, all in all, I don't think that this book really needed to be as long as it was. It is the longest in the series. But I'm not going to complain because it meant we got more scenes with the whole family. Like, we got to revisit them. And I love that. I love that they didn't just disappear after their own books. And I love that he didn't just appear in his book. He's been here from the beginning. They've all been here from the beginning. It feels like watching a series about a whole family, and each season is about one brother and his quest to fulfill his grandfather's wish or whatever. Like, it's cute, okay? It's cute. In the end, I was worried that they were going to try to redeem the father. Like, redeem his character, because he's been a dick for 3 books. And if they had redeemed him, Laura, if you had redeemed his character and made him suddenly into the good guy through some miscommunication shit, I would have been pissed off. But you didn't do that, so thank you. This would be a rant review. If that had happened, I would be ranting right now. I'm just especially happy with how ingrained Zara, Rowan, Iris, and Declan were throughout Callahan's story, because their exclusion wouldn't have made much sense with them being like a very, like, this has to do with his addiction and him finding his own family with Cami and Alana, and excluding his other family or excluding the other parts of his family just wouldn't have made sense. They like play roles in the outcome of the story, so yay for my favorites not turning out absolutely useless. And you can even see their characters still growing, still going through character growth. Like, you still see Declan becoming a better person. He doesn't reach his perfect status at the end of his book. It's like, no, even in the next book, you can see he's still getting better. He's just in the background a little bit more. Like, the fact that he's going to therapy, it was like this very, like, it could have so easily been like a throwaway line, but the fact that she mentioned it, this was like, yeah, he's going to therapy now. Like, I almost started crying. I was so proud of him because I was just like, Declan, you took that step. These people aren't real, by the way. I'm really sad. I'm sad that this is the end, but it's also a very good end. The whole series is definitely like a reread, but Declan and Iris are my comfort couple, and this is probably 4 stars. So it's, I did it. I read it all. 4.75, 5, 4. These are wonderful books. And I'm excited to read more from Lauren Asher. I know that she has like a race car series thing, which is pretty exciting. Thank you for listening to me rant about the Kane brothers. I like this series. I did force my mom to read it. Her favorite book was Callahan's. So everybody's different. Mine was Declan's. I'm really happy. I'm so happy you can see that I've read them as well. Like the spine is so perfectly, oh, so satisfying. They look like my Twilight books. So yeah. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Yeah. Have a wonderful day. I'm sorry I couldn't look in the camera a lot, but I'm sort of a bit nervous, but that's whatever. It's gonna get better every time. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Bye.